You know, there is a term in the corporate world that drives me absolutely crazy. It's one of those things that everyone claims to do, everyone nods their head at, but when you actually look at the results, it's a ghost town.
Let me guess. You're talking about PDCA? Plan, Do, Check, Act?
Exactly. It's supposed to be the bedrock of continuous improvement, right? The engine of Toyota, the secret sauce of lean manufacturing. But in reality, it feels like most companies treat it like a tax form. You fill it out because you have to, you file it away, and you pray nobody asks you about it again. Why is something so fundamental so broken?
That is the million-dollar question. And honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head with the tax form comparison. The tragedy of PDCA is that it's deceptively simple. Plan, do, check, act. It sounds like a to-do list, but it isn't a to-do list. It's the scientific method. And most organizations, they aren't running scientists, they're running assembly lines. They want the do, but they hate the thinking.
That's an interesting distinction. So you're saying the failure isn't in the tool itself, but in the human desire to just get stuff done?
Precisely. Think about human nature. We love action. We love checking off a box that says, task complete. It gives us a dopamine hit. But PDCA asks you to slow down. It asks you to admit you might be wrong. It asks you to measure failure. Nobody wants to do that. So PDCA gets reduced to a zombie ritual. We go through the motions, but the brain is turned off.
Zombie ritual. I like that. But let's break this down for the listeners who might be thinking, wait, I do PDCA, am I a zombie? What does a real PDCA cycle actually look like versus what we usually see?
Okay, let's look at the plan. In a healthy system, the plan is a hypothesis. It's you saying, I believe problem X is caused by Y, and if we do Z, the result will be better by 10%. You are making a prediction.
Right? You're putting your reputation on the line a little bit.
Exactly. But in most companies, the plan is just, we need to fix the machine. There's no hypothesis. There's no target condition. So then they rush to do. They fix the machine. Everyone high fives.
And then they skip check and act entirely?
Or worse, they fake it. This is where it falls apart. The check phase is supposed to be, did what actually happened match what I predicted? If you didn't make a clear prediction in the first place, you can't check anything. So check becomes, did we do the work? Yes. Is the boss happy? Yes. Okay, let's move on. That's not learning. That's just compliance.
It sounds like we are confusing activity with improvement. Just because you're moving doesn't mean you're getting anywhere.
That is the defining struggle of modern management. We mistake motion for progress. And the casualty is the act phase. If you didn't learn anything in check, then act just becomes standardize. You just say, okay, keep doing that forever. You never pivot. You never adjust. You never stop to say, wow, that didn't work at all. Let's try something else.
So if the root cause here is essentially human psychology, our ego, our impatience, how do we fix it? Because you can't just tell people, think better.
No, you can't. And that's where the role of the manager, or the coach, is absolutely critical. And this is the second point of failure. Most managers think their job in a PDCA review is to check the status. Is it done? Is it on time? Is it under budget?
The clipboard approach.
Right. But a real PDCA review isn't about the result. It's about the thinking process. A manager needs to look at a PDCA sheet and ask, how did you know this was the root cause? Or, show me the evidence that this countermeasure actually worked. They need to be quality control for the logic, not just the output.
But let's be real. Most managers I know are swamped. They don't have time to have a philosophical debate about logic with every employee. They barely have time to eat lunch.
And that is exactly why the PDCA starter system concept is gaining traction. It's this idea that you need to constrain the process to set people free. If you don't have a structure for that coaching conversation, it will wander. It takes too long.
Tell me more about this starter system. Is this a software? A new app?
Actually, and this might shock you in 2024, it's paper, or at least it starts as paper.
Paper? Really? We are talking about high-tech manufacturing and digital transformation, and you want people to use a pen?
I know, it sounds like Luddite thinking. But hear me out. When you put someone in front of software, what do? They fill in the mandatory fields to get the red error message to go away. They are interacting with the UI, not the problem.
That's true. I've definitely filled out forms just to get the submit button to turn green.
Exactly. The starter system uses a physical field card. It forces brevity. You have a small box for your problem statement. You can't write a novel, you have to be precise. You have to write down your hypothesis. And for the manager, there's a coaching sheet. It's a literal script for the review conversation.
So it's training wheels?
It's a scaffold. It forces the discipline that our brains want to avoid. The manager doesn't have to invent questions. They look at the sheet. Was the problem observable? Did the data support the conclusion? It turns a vague 30-minute chat into a focused 5-minute coaching session.
I see. So by restricting the format, you're actually forcing the quality of the thinking to go up. It's like, if you can't explain it on a 3x5 card, you probably don't understand the problem.
Bingo. If you can't do good PDCA on paper, software will only make you do bad PDCA faster. Digital tools are great for scaling, but they are terrible for teaching. You need to build the muscle memory first.
That's a powerful insight. Software makes bad processes faster. I feel like we could do a whole episode just on that. But I want to circle back to the check phase you mentioned earlier. You said that's where the learning happens. If teams start using this starter system, this structured manual approach, what changes?
The biggest shift is that check stops being a narrative and starts being evidence-based. Instead of saying, I think it's better, the team starts saying, we predicted a 10% drop in defects. We got 4%. Why?
The gap. They start seeing the gap.
Yes. And that gap is gold. That gap is where the organization gets smarter. When you normalize finding the gap between what you thought would happen and what did happen, you stop being afraid of being wrong. You start getting curious.
That sounds like a massive cultural shift. It goes from a culture of proving I'm right to a culture of finding out the truth.
It is. And that's why ACT changes too. In the old way, ACT was just a rubber stamp. In this new way, ACT is a decision point. Do we standardize this? Do we adjust and run the experiment again? Or do we abandon it because the hypothesis was wrong?
Abandoning a project. That's a taboo in a lot of places. Sunk cost? Fallacy is real.
It is. But a good PDCA system makes it okay to say, we tried this, the data says it didn't work. Let's stop wasting resources. That is a victory, not a failure.
I want to touch on the starter part of the name. It implies there's a next step. You mentioned software earlier. Is the goal to stay on paper forever, or does this evolve?
It evolves. The paper system is the foundation. Once the team understands the logic, once they know how to write a hypothesis and how to check data without lying to themselves, then you can move to digital. Then you can bring in the dashboards and the apps. Because now, the digital tool is capturing high-quality thinking, not just noise.
So, earn the right to go digital.
Exactly. Prove you can think, then we'll give you the speed.
I love that. It's almost counterintuitive in our rush to digital world. But it makes perfect sense. If the input is garbage, the digital output is just faster garbage.
And expensive garbage.
Very true. So, we've got about a minute left. If I'm a manager listening to this, and I'm looking at my team's PDCA board, and it looks like a graveyard of half-filled forms, what is the one thing I should do tomorrow morning?
Stop asking for updates. Stop asking, is it done? Instead, pick one PDCA, sit down with the owner, and ask, what was your hypothesis and what did you actually learn?
Just that?
Just that. Shift the focus from completion to learning. If you signal that you care about the thinking process, they will start thinking. If you only care about the check mark, they'll just buy more pens.
That is a fantastic place to leave it. It's not about the form. It's about the friction in our own brains.
Absolutely. PDCA is a mirror. If you don't like what you see, don't blame the mirror.
Deep thoughts to end on. Thank you so much for breaking this down. It certainly made me rethink my own to-do list.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
And for everyone listening, remember, slow down, check your thinking, and don't be afraid to be wrong. We'll see you next time.